The show is about to start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is Don't Fear Grit with Rob Taormina. Marketing strategies and advertising technologies to help you build a better business.
Welcome back to DFG. This is literally going to be our first guest interview of the season. As you guys know, I teased everyone, letting them know this is going to be a special season dedicated to guest interviews. And in the studio to kick it off, I got my friend Mike here. And Mike, why don't you just introduce yourself, give some context. Who are you?
Sure. So my name is Mike Evans. I am a multi-hyphenate entrepreneur. So I have a lot of different ventures that I like to do. Right now we have Vision Martial Arts, which is a martial arts school in Patchogue, New York. I'm also a massage therapist. So we have within the martial arts school, we have a massage therapy clinic, Massage LI, where we also do aesthetics, classes for people that want to learn about it. We have Forgotten Skills, which is a survival and community building endeavor that kind of came out of COVID era. And a couple little other things dabbling here and there, science communication, writing another book, and
Oh, wow.
all sorts of good stuff.
You're the classic entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
You got bit by the bug and you're not going back.
It's that Renaissance man, Danny DeVito.
That's right. Rain Man.
I don't have his money yet.
So here's a question, and this is the question that everyone always starts off with. So we'll just get this one out of the way. Is how did you get your start? What was your first entrepreneurial sort of experience? And then as far as where you are now, why did you get started? Why did you decide I want to get into martial arts? I want to get into massage therapy. I want to get into survival skill stuff. What got you to where you are today?
Man, so that is quite the path, ups and downs, lefts and rights.
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing I ever did entrepreneurially is I tried to start a martial arts supply business.
Okay.
It was just an opportunity that was there. I was probably 20 years old, took out a personal loan, bought some stuff, didn't know anything about business, and we went out of business instantly.
Yeah.
I did get some cool toys that were left over from that.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still hanging on my wall. From there, I just had some opportunities as I grew through the martial arts where at a certain point, my teacher wanted to retire from public teaching. He still does teach, but not as much publicly. So he left the school to a partner and I. We failed that business, and we lasted a little longer. We lasted about a year.
Okay.
A year and a half.
Yeah.
I opened another martial arts school just by myself thereafter. That one lasted probably about 9 years until...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 2008, 2009, when
Yes.
everything collapsed. Our lease was up.
Okay.
Everything just kind of perfect storm.
Yeah.
I still didn't know anything about business at that
Sure.
point. So we went.
But you're getting better and better and better
Yeah,
with each new experience.
Each time we got a little better.
Yeah.
And I had a student of mine who said, you know what? This is kind of my thing. We're not going to let you close. Here's a key. And he got a space where we rented a space in another martial arts school.
Okay.
It was this gentleman, Gene Monteleone. He's an Aikido guy. And one of the things that he did was he would bring in new martial arts leaders. And he was an incubator for martial arts schools. So there was probably 6 or 7 of us teaching in his school at a time. So, when my student handed me the key, I still had to pay the bill.
Yeah.
It was that, wow, if somebody believes in me, all right, I'm going to do it just for you guys. And then one thing led to another. We started getting really good at it. I said, all right, I don't want to leave, my student who did this initial thing on the hook. I definitely don't want to hurt, Monteleone Sensei's business, so I better go learn at least a little something.
Yeah.
Went through a lot of mindset training. I used to be a very negative person.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah. One of those, as soon as he said, I have this idea, my ADHD would kick in, and I would project the 27 different reasons it wasn't going to work.
Oh, wow.
So through a bunch of mindset training, working with a lot of mentors, and kind of working my way through the martial arts industry to this. At one point, I was the COO of the largest curriculum provider in the industry.
Wow.
So that close mentorship really took my weakness of that negativity, and it let me say, all right, here's an idea. Yeah, I still have that initial little voice that says, what are those 27 things that are going to go wrong? But now it's, how do I shoot down those 27 things before they ever even come up so
Yeah.
that I can go be successful?
Yeah.
So one thing led to another. We kind of made it up to COVID. As soon as COVID hit, we were one of the first businesses to close.
Yeah.
We saw the writing on the wall. We pivoted probably 2 days before the state shut down. We
Oh, is that
pivoted
right?
To Zoom. Yeah.
Okay.
And that went, I'm going to say well. I mean, that was,
Yeah.
that was an interesting time in the world.
Yeah, but at that time, you didn't think that it was going to last as long as it did.
No,
You thought it was temporary, right?
Yeah, 2-3 weeks, we're good to go.
Yeah.
And then 10 months later, we're still closed.
Yeah.
When they finally did let us open, it was very small, 30%, then 50%.
Yeah.
So we were going kind of stir crazy. And, this is where we started getting into those other businesses. So
Yeah.
if we can't be inside doing martial arts,
Yeah.
let's go outside. What could we do outside? And
You
we
have to get creative.
Yeah, we started this. First, it was just like, go hiking and clear my mind. And then it was a couple of friends. Let's go hiking and clear our mind.
Yeah.
Then it was a couple more friends. And it was, remember when we were kids and we would start fires in the woods?
Yeah.
So we started
sure.
starting fires in the woods.
Amazing.
That led to another business.
Yeah.
And then we went from there. Everything opened back up. We built the school up to a certain point, but we never quite recovered from COVID. We did okay. I think during COVID, we were probably one of the leaders in the country, surviving and even thriving.
Is it because well, maybe you think that because you embraced the sort of virtual reality sort of aspect early?
Yeah.
You were early adopters of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's something we'd already been talking with an account of ours over in the UK, and they were starting an online teaching platform.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, it's a good thing that spark was already there.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
when it hit the fan,
Yeah,
we were
yeah,
like,
yeah.
all right, let's just pivot. We already have this idea.
Right.
Let's just go.
Right.
But it just wasn't the same. I mean, part of what we do, a traditional Chinese martial arts school was the center of a community. It wasn't just like, I'm going to go take karate.
Right.
Nothing against karate.
No.
But it was, they were doctors and healers and scholars
Yes.
that also taught martial arts. And they brought the community together in times of, famine and sickness. That was the hub.
Yeah.
So that's what we wanted to be. And even though we did okay during that virtual,
Yeah.
it wasn't the same. We never really recovered the same financially. And then when finally, the landlord was great. He worked with us all through it. But it got to a point where he's like, all right, look.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't do it anymore.
Sure.
So we stepped back once again.
Yeah.
My story is a story of failure, but I'm always, what book was I? I forget what book it was off the top of my head. Always talking about failing forward.
Yeah.
Right. So we stepped back and we said, okay, a little heart palpitations going on, a little
Sure.
chest pain for a couple days. And then we got together and we said, okay, we can't go away with the martial arts. It saved my life, mostly from myself, so many times.
Yeah.
Changed so many people's lives. I said, all right, let's bring back the other things I'm good at. So we brought back the massage therapy. We brought in a partner who's an esthetician. So half of our school is set up for healing and wellness. The other half is set up for the child development. We were running the skills program. And even though I no longer work for the company, I do believe in the product so much. And we use it with our kids.
Yeah.
For the adults, we brought back a little more of that tradition. And then we were like, all right, but how do we get the community back?
Right.
So we started, going hiking in the woods. And we kind of remembered that, all right, back during COVID, we had this whole business idea that we just never really took.
Yeah.
Met up with a friend of mine who's a biologist and runs Seed out in Brookhaven, New York. And they do wonderful environmental things.
Yeah.
And to me, I grew up as an environmentalist. I'm an East End boy. It
Sure.
was, came home from school, maybe did your homework. And then you were off in the woods.
Yeah, yeah.
So as we chatted, he's like, I love the woods here. And we started going out and doing
Sure.
things. And now we have these survival classes that we're running through Seed, but it's kind of re-sparking the forgotten skills thing that I do with the survival. And,
Yeah.
and I used to call it primitive skills, but I was informed that that's not a nice way to say it. So now we're going
It's
with
not PC?
No. And look, I don't want to offend anybody. So
Right,
now we're going
right,
with more
right.
like ancestral skills.
Yeah.
To us, it's survival.
Sure.
So you go back 2 or 3 generations.
Yeah.
That's just how they lived. Life was a fight every
Yeah.
single day. So that's how I got where we are now.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I love the journey, but one thing you said that I want to stick to right now a little bit is you quoted, making sure that you fail forward if you fail. And that's something that, like, lately I've been reading a lot of books on, mindset training, and a lot of the sort of like the common theme with a lot of the books is this idea of failure and helping people get perspective on it, because they look at failure as this, you sort of didn't accomplish anything and now life is over in a way, instead of looking at failure as opportunity. In the sort of athletes world, in the sports world, failing is a stepping stone for them.
Oh yeah.
Whether it be the greats that everyone knows, like Michael Jordan and whatnot, failing, 70% of the time or 60% of the time when taking the shot, he looks at these as opportunities to get better. But a lot of people, they fall short of experiencing their success because they look at failure as the end point. Mm-hmm. And I love this. This is sort of like the fortune cookie sort of piece of advice. Is the true failure, I guess, the way that they're defining it is really when you give up, when you fall down, you stay down. Yep. But failing is you just get back up and you try something else. And so I'm interested as an entrepreneur. How important do you think that is? I mean, and I could sort of guess what you're about to say, considering what you just shared about your journey with multiple businesses, right? But for entrepreneurs that listen to this and right now are experiencing struggle, and they're looking at it like, I'm done. This is not, I can't do this anymore. Clearly, I failed, right?
Sure.
So what sort of advice would you give them as far as failure for entrepreneurs?
So the first thing is, you didn't fail. The thing that you were trying failed. Mm-hmm. We can't let it define us. And that's something that I used to do, is I'd say, oh, I suck, and, I'm horrible, and I'll never be good at something. And that's that old negative person, right? So when we realize, well, it wasn't me that failed. It was the thing I was doing failed. That provides me now a couple of things to think about. First, when I price things, if we go into the business aspect for a moment, when I price things, I used to be, well, I have to keep it cheap. I grew up pretty broke, right? I don't like to say poor, because my grandmother would say poor is a mindset. So even as a child, I've done that, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
So we grew up without much.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't really realize it, because my parents did a wonderful job of making sure we were loved and taken care of and fed. And sometimes fed meant like, hey, we don't have anything for dinner. Go across the street and catch something.
Yeah. Real quick on that point. People need to realize this, that kids don't understand sort of like lifestyle at such a young age. And I think parents put so much pressure of lifestyle on kids, like, oh, my kids need this, FOMOing their kids into life. And I think, the more you share about your sort of upbringing, I had a very, very similar, we had that $0. We didn't have two nickels to rub together. And I remember when I was telling my dad, I'm like, hey, I would love a pet. My dad would be like, yeah, go catch one. And I didn't look at it as a bad thing. I didn't be like, oh, my dad's telling me to go catch a pet because we're poor. I loved my life.
Oh yeah.
I loved it. Now, we were very, very poor. We had no money. But that's what I mean. Like, kids don't know, and they can find joy, they can find growth, they can find stability and success, even in those moments. We don't have to FOMO kids into things.
Sure, and that's actually required. As part of what we do is the whole child development aspect. And kids need boredom. It's required for their mental growth, for their emotional resilience. They need to be able to say, like, I'm bored, and for dad to say, hi, I'm bored, I'm dad, and and then to be kicked out of the house or kicked into the other room. And you'll see that very quickly they're creating. And that creativity goes to being able to get past failures, right? Being creative. So, as we now start pricing things in our business, I was taught that you have to raise your rates first. That was lesson number one. And I had that pushback because we didn't have much. And I wanted it to be accessible.
Sure.
And with working with the mindset coach and the business coaches, it was, well, the more you charge, the more money you'll have coming in, the more people you can help, but also you'll have more freedom to truly help the person that can't afford it. When I had everybody paying me $20 a month, I couldn't afford to help anybody. Yeah,
that's a good point.
When we were, the most expensive in town, and somebody legit came in from a shelter or something, and they would say, oh, I always wanted to do this. I said, good, so do it. Let's go. Well, how much? I didn't ask you. Just let's go.
Right.
Because I had that freedom. So as you're pricing things, you keep raising those rates as you're supposed to, and you know you have the right price because you're getting about a 30% pushback. Right? If you're not getting 30% pushback, you could have done better. You could have done more. So in essence, I'm seeking that failure to sign up 30% to tell me I'm doing the right by 70%. Now, if I'm failing all the time and my sign-up ratios are like in the toilet,
Sure.
All right, it's time to reassess things.
Yeah.
The second thing is when we hit that failure, that says, well, something was too hard for me, or I didn't quite understand it completely as I am now. And like, I've been in this game for a long time. So when something I don't completely understand or I'm not good enough at it, that means it's probably something pretty difficult. If it's difficult for me, it's difficult for someone else. And what is the purpose of an entrepreneur is to find that pain point that people have and solve it. So my own failures kind of direct where my next steps will be. Sometimes it's for my own edification, oh, hey, wow, I got to go learn how to do taxes, or go how to learn how to, do AI now. And sometimes it's for the people around me. And that's how I originally got into coaching, because we had some really old guys, not old in the sense of age, but old in the sense of mindset, where they just wanted to teach martial arts the old ways. They didn't understand how to market, how to get their school going. And there were great mentors out there, but there was nobody in the middle saying, all right, look, let me show you the first couple steps so that you understand what the big guys are saying. And that became my niche, that how do you get over that first step of getting into getting help? So that failure on my own helped me find that opportunity.
Right. I love that perspective, and I hope people listening to this I want you to save this moment, because I think you just articulated it really, really well to give people perspective on the value that can be found in failing. Sure. And to sort of seek that stuff out. I think that's really great. Now, I guess moving a little bit away from failure, let's talk a little bit about, and maybe, understanding failure is a skill, but what are some necessary high-level priority skills and abilities you think that entrepreneurs should have? Or maybe your answer is, well, I don't think there is a skill or ability that all entrepreneurs have. That's fine. And I'm curious as to why you would think that. But so I guess there's that two-part question. Do you think there are skills and abilities? And if so, what are they for entrepreneurs?
Sure. I definitely think there are. I think there is a certain amount that you can just come with to the game. My cousin was always, unfortunately, he fell more into the get rich quick kind of guy. So he never really had that longevity in things. I think he could have been amazing. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But watching him was part of what colored my desire to want to get into business, because I saw he was always moving. Always, moving forward. And I think that is a big part of it. I mean, the podcast is called Don't Fear Grit. And I did a series of interviews with some teachers a while back. And I asked them, I teach all these kids, and it's martial arts, but it's child development classes. What do you need in your schools in a post-COVID environment that, I could help your kids have? And the number one answer was grit. Resiliency,
yes,
that ability to fail a test and move forward. So being able to look long distance, and we're failing right now, but generals for millennia have been losing battles but winning wars.
Sure.
Right? So that ability to look long range and keep eyes on the prize. Also knowing, where are you now? In our survival classes, one of the exercises we do is we lay out all these different tools. There's a knife and matches and a compass and a water straw and all these different things. And we just ask people before we even start, out of all these things, what's the one you would take? And 90% of people say, oh, if I'm lost, I want the compass. And we say, fantastic. Do you know how to use a compass? Well, I mean, I can find north. Say, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the first things you learn in land navigation is, in order to get where you want to be, you need to know two things: where you want to be and where you are right now. If you don't have that, the compass is useless. So in business, also, know where you are. Be very humble about looking at your own strengths and faults. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have an ego, because I think an ego is very important. We need to believe in ourselves more than anybody else.
Sure.
But having just a little moment of humility, and this is where coaches come in.
Yes.
Helping us see those things that maybe we don't want to see sometimes.
You're a big advocate of mentorship and coaching.
Oh yes, that is. If I look back in my life, every time that something bad happened and I got past it, there was a coach there.
Yeah.
There was, I started off. I was almost wrote a book about my life, but I'm not that interesting. So like the first memories I have of a major setback is like I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and it's just very vague memories of being molested. But then I had like people in my life that helped me get past that and say, well, this doesn't define you. This is something somebody else did. From there, going and, if we fast forward, like I wanted to be an athlete. So I had a coach who stepped in and said, well, I know you're a fat body right now, but I'm going to work with you. And he brought me to the point where I was, after the Super Bowl, we're talking about this. I was playing football at a national level with PAL because he built us up like that. I went into the Marine Corps. This is going to be my career.
Yeah.
And I got hurt in boot camp. And at that time, they were kind of shrinking the Marine Corps down. So anybody that got a hangnail, they were out. So
wow.
So like that plan failed and I got lost. And I had somebody just in town that came by and picked me up and said, look, man, I know you're a little lost right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you my business. Whether you stay in that business for now or forever, that's up to you, but you need to get out of your funk.
Yeah.
So like every time in my life that there was failure, there was a coach helping me get to that next step.
Is that because though you were intentional of making sure you sort of were surrounded by people that in these moments could in fact advise you, or this was just, it just sort of was by accident in a way that you surrounded yourself with people like this?
That's an interesting question. I don't think early on that I was looking for it. I was totally a nerd, a dork, a geek.
Okay.
All of those things that you shouldn't be when you're coming up and starting to think about girls. And that was me. So there was always just somebody there. So I think probably I was maybe subconsciously looking for who's going to help me get to the next level. But it really wasn't until probably 2010.
Okay.
That I started going to business conferences and hearing other people talk about their successes and stories that were very similar, parallel to mine.
Yeah.
And that kind of sparked that, oh, this is how you did it.
Right. I noticed one thing that everyone has a story, right? Everyone. And as far as entrepreneurs, the more that I get to speak with them, whether it be on the show or in personal life and in my business career, I've noticed that a pivotal moment in all entrepreneurs' journey is they mention a conversation they have with another entrepreneur or another successful person or a conference that they went to, a seminar they attended. And, it seems that if we would just humble ourselves a little bit earlier to bring that sort of support in, that we can sort of fast track, our success, and maybe avoid some of those, avoidable sort of pitfalls early on that discourage us, waste our time, waste our money, So here's the question for you. Do you think that having those challenges, though, help to shape us, therefore it's important for us to go through that, or if we can avoid it, avoid it?
So I wouldn't say necessarily go seek out failures. But I wouldn't say avoid them either. As we kind of look back at our paths, a lot of the things that we get challenged by are similar to the same things that other people are challenged by. And as a teacher, one of the things I tell my students is, you will be better than me as martial artists, and you're going to do it in far less time because you have everything that I learned from my teacher over decades that I'm now condensing down. You have everything I've learned over decades that I'm now condensing down. You're going to get it all within 5 years. Now, will you have the experience and maturity and all that? No, that'll come. But one of the cool things about humans is we learn generationally. So you mentioned being able to talk even just to another entrepreneur. We all have it's our passion. It's our baby. We don't want to tell anybody about it because somebody might steal it. And I'm just not where I want to be yet. But really 90% of any business is the same malarkey that every other business is doing. And one of the first friends that it really started leading me down this path He said, you know what we want to talk about today at this big mindset thing is we're going to chop wood and carry water. And I said, what do you mean? And he's like, well, all the things you're doing right in your business are the passionate parts. And all the things you're doing wrong are just the things you never learned how to do, but we're all doing it. I'm going to show you how to track leads. I'm going to show you how to manage an employee. I'm going to show you, you know, so it was a big weight lifted off. To have that, oh, you mean I don't have to do it all alone? You know, entrepreneurship can be very lonely at times. Not everybody understands, especially those closest to us. You know, my parents were some of the first ones to try to talk me out of some of this stuff. They said, if you do it, we'll support you. But having a paycheck come in every week is really nice. Which, I do kind of miss that corporate regularity sometimes. But, you know, just knowing that even as we're working alone, we are not alone. There's a coffee shop down in Patchogue where a lot of us hang out. And the gentleman that runs it he's a wonderful entrepreneur, a wonderful community member. And the space that he's created is such that you walk in and you look around and you feel the vibe. These are all entrepreneurs, a lot of students as well doing homework, but just being there and hearing the other snippets of conversation, you know, somebody, and not listening in, of course, but you know, it's a public space and you hear like somebody has that little snippet of, oh, that's exactly what I'm here to work on today. It's just empowering. Knowing that even in my solidarity, what's the word I'm looking for? Solidarity? In my aloneness. I don't blame that on COVID brain or something, right? Even in my aloneness, I am surrounded by others. You know, it's like that mission of warriors all on a common cause. We each have our job and our duty, but we're all kind of going together.
You know, there's a saying that I sort of like abuse. I abuse it, you know, with people that I coach, even my kids, and I say that the tide rises for all ships. And I think that one of the dangers that I think entrepreneurs get into is this idea that what I have and what I do is I'm the only one, and I don't want anyone else to see it, because then they're, like you were saying before, they're going to steal my idea. I actually wholeheartedly disagree with that mindset completely. I actually think you're more successful the more that you sort of bring people into sort of that journey with you. Even if it's people, and this is I know a danger, but even if it's people that are sort of in your industry, in your space, I think that you should actually come together. I think that if you can create market, you can educate market together. If you educate the market becomes bigger. There's more than demands for what you do, because now you guys have come together and created a demand. And so, you know, that's why I feel like one piece of advice that I can consistently try to give brand new entrepreneurs is to don't sort of lock your business up like Fort Knox. Open up those doors, and in fact, take the initiative to reach out to other people in your space. And I'm not saying you have to become a partner with them. I'm not saying you partner with them, but definitely open that conversation and regularly talk, because you guys can educate the market, like I was saying before, build demand for your product. You could just do a better job. And I think plus there's plenty of money out there to be made.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree. I didn't used to, but I do now. You know, our niche for kids martial arts for years has been child development, and we had to kind of create the market in our area for that. Nobody knew. Like if you said, "Oh, I'm a child development specialist," they would say, "Oh, is it a school for special needs kids?" Well, we can certainly work with your child, but that's not what we are. Once we created this market, we started seeing like the other schools in the area were all of a sudden like, "Oh, we do child development too." And, you know, some of my friends would be like, "Oh, they're stealing your stuff." And I said, well, wait a minute. First of all, I believe so wholeheartedly in what I do that it will benefit kids that I want every single martial arts school, soccer coach, dance school, gymnastics school, I want them all to take this. Because, in business, we are trying to make money, but there was something that we saw that was needed, that from which we're trying to make that money.
Yeah.
And that thing in that venue for me is giving kids those tools that I have now that I didn't have as a child.
Yeah.
So if I can, through my influence, get other influencers to lead those kids into a venue where they have access to those tools, why wouldn't I want that?
Yeah.
And the second part of the second way I look at it is, if what I'm doing isn't good enough for somebody else to take notice, well, then I need to step back and figure out what I'm doing.
Right.
If it is good enough and everybody's trying to not necessarily copy it, but be inspired by it,
Yeah.
well, then maybe I'm right. Maybe I do have something here.
Right.
And then I just refine it.
Right.
So it kind of guides me a little bit.
I love it. I love it. Now, what, in your opinion, as someone who's had multiple businesses, it seems like you got your hands in a lot of different things. You've met a lot of people, tremendous amount of experience. And by the way, that leads to lots of wisdom. So I look at you as someone w's very wise.
No pressure, right?
no pressure. What do you think is the importance for a new, answer it in two parts if you could, because I think the approaches are different. Someone who's a brand new entrepreneur, just starting out, and then a seasoned entrepreneur. What's the importance of market research and zeroing in on a niche?
Yeah, that's a good one. So for a brand new entrepreneur, we have these big ideas, and I still fall to it, right? Because when I start a new venture, I'm a new entrepreneur again. It's new things and shinies and so finding that niche is really important. One of the failures that we had in one of my previous martial arts schools is we tried to do it all. Kickboxing is a cool new thing. Well, guess what? We have kickboxing classes. Kids are a cool new. We have kids now.
Yeah.
BJJ is a cool new that we had that now.
Yeah.
And it was hard to do. Even as we scaled the team, it was hard to say, this is who we are. This is what we do. It was even harder to say, oh man, how do I market my kickboxing today when I only have ideas for the MMA and I only have an ad prepped for the kids and I only have. It didn't provide me a lot of clarity, focus, vision. So we named my business the Vision Martial Arts because in our biggest failure, it was that clarity of vision of who we wanted to be that brought us forward. So one of the things we like to tell newer people is, look, you can always add on a product line, but save it for when that ship is running smoothly and without you. Right. Then you can focus on the next thing. For the more seasoned person, there's this idea that what got you here is not what's going to get you to the next spot. And, in martial arts, it tends to be like, oh, I got to the 150 student or 200 student mark tends to be like the thing.
Sure.
And you got to realize, like, look, when you hit that, what you were doing keeps you there because that's what got you there. Now all your percentages are bigger. So instead of putting on 2 students a month, you got to put on 20 students a month just to break even. Yeah. So it's that market research is going to allow you to keep a wide perspective. It's going to say, here are other opportunities. I mentioned I talked to a lot of teachers, and one of the challenges in schools is the things that they're preparing our kids for today. Half of that won't exist in 5 years. Most of it won't exist in 10 years. So we're preparing kids for jobs that won't be there. Now, we can shift that and say, instead of preparing for the job, I prepare the tools that will allow you to be successful in any job. Sure. And I think that's what most teachers do within the confines of their district rules and such.
Sure.
The second part of it is, once those jobs are gone, what's going to backfill it is things that we haven't even imagined yet. So by doing market research, and we do it all the time, I'm constantly asking just random people, and not just about my martial arts or my massage or my survival, just asking them in general, like, what's the challenge of adult life for you right now? Because we go back to, what are we really trying to do? Make money by solving people's
problems. That's right.
So my perspective tends to be, what do I have to do today in my business to be successful? Not necessarily what's Joe Bob over there trying to do so he can just get through his day. Right. If I could solve that, it makes it all easy. Yeah,
there's a book. It's considered like the Bible of advertising called Breakthrough Advertising. I don't know if you heard of it or read it. Right. It seems like anyone who's really been in business and especially embraces marketing, you've read this book. You know, even though it was written probably, I think, about 50 years or so at this point ago, it's sort of timeless. And in there, as you probably are well aware, it has, what is it, the 5 levels of market sophistication?
Yeah.
Right? Now, you know, one thing that I think a lot of new entrepreneurs don't understand is that they don't understand adaptability. They sort of get a little arrogant about their product and their service, and they don't understand how, you know, when maybe as the market's evolving in the sense that there's now lots of competition, clamoring, right? And now your market, what's it called? Your market share is decreasing. You know, that one way is to simply sort of just change a little bit, a small aspect of what you do. And why I'm saying this is, before you brought up, is that, like, we're all doing what other people are doing or have done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not really inventing anything or much brand new. You know, it's just a small little derivative here. How important do you think it is for entrepreneurs to be able to, number one, through market research, be aware, and then be adaptable? You know, is there a time and a place for having that ego and confident, no, I know what I have will solve the problem, and I'm trailblazing forward and I'm going to bully my way through it? Or do you think the most successful entrepreneurs say, hey, listen, I do have a product, but I need to be able to evolve as the market evolves with it? Like, what's your sort of take on that?
Sure. So, like, if we look at some of the biggest corporations that are entrepreneur driven in our lifetime anyway, we could look at Amazon. Amazon started selling books, and like right now they sell everything. And it became less about, hey, I want to sell everything, and more about, hey, I have this platform on which we could sell everything.
Right.
You know, I don't think that when Jeff Bezos was sitting there, he said, wow, I want to sell books, and I want to sell detergent, and I want to sell tools. And he said, I want to sell this platform.
Correct.
And now so many, like my own websites run on Amazon Web Servers because...
I was just going to say, AWS now is probably one of their primary streams of revenue, not even the products that they're selling.
Right. So, you know, the adaptability there was not, hey, I need to be able to do all these things. It's, what else can I do with my thing?
Right.
Right. And if we now scale that back and we can now go into my business, it was, I want to help these kids. And in the beginning, it was, I helped them by teaching them how to throat punch a bully, you know, and then I became a little more refined about it. And I said, well, okay, that doesn't really solve the problem.
Yeah.
You know, now I want to work with the bullies. And that was something nobody was doing. Nobody wants to work with the bully. I said, well, I want to solve the root cause. And that became, well, how do I do that? Okay, well, if I get into child development, now child development led me to, well, kids are not little adults. They have their own unique things, but adults are just big kids.
Big kids.
Yeah. We just have bigger toys, right? So now it's, all right, my products are all about improving people's lives. It's whether it's through the martial arts, personal development, child development, parenting classes, massage therapy, aesthetics, women's empowerment, learning how to survive when things go wrong, or even just the mindset behind all those things. They all tie together with that, you know, the what's my why. I used to be part of the hustle culture until I learned about alignment. And now like alignment is one of my favorite words. So that when you align everything to your mission, you do see other opportunities that you can then adapt to without losing focus.
Sure.
And I think that's the part that most people get wrong, is they lose focus as they go.
Oh, yeah. All right. In line with that, last 2 questions here. The first one has to do with a question that someone asked. So I had put up a post and saying, hey, I'm going to be interviewing a bunch of people. What question would you ask? And so this is the hot seat moment. You never know. You never know what it is.
All right.
Okay. So the one question that I thought you would be really good for, and this is actually a perfect transition considering what you just said, is how, as a busy entrepreneur, you know, because there are entrepreneurs and then there's ambitious entrepreneurs, right? I categorize you as ambitious because you're dabbling in a lot of things. So how, as an ambitious entrepreneur, this is what was the question, is how do you create a healthy work-life balance?
Ooh, there's question of the millennia, right?
Yeah.
So part of it is you do have to realize that there are going to be times when balance is not static. When I was in college for massage therapy, one of the first things they taught us was the balance between Eastern and Western medicine. And in Western medicine, we talk about, we have homeostasis. Everything in your body is in balance and you're healthy. In Eastern medicine, we say, well, you are homeodynamic. You are on a seesaw and things, let me go into the camera for this one. Instead of being like, we're balanced and everything is perfect and nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
We're balanced. We're seesawing back and forth within a range of acceptability.
Oh, okay.
So we have to recognize in entrepreneurship, there are going to be times when we don't have family dinner together, when we have to stay up till 2 a.m. getting that last campaign done.
Yeah.
When your ADHD hyper focus kicks in and you go, oh, light bulb, I got to get this done now. And you miss the kid's soccer game.
Yeah.
There will be those moments. But I think it is also, and this is where like an accountability partner comes in, not necessarily a coach, but I have people that check in on me and they're like, all right, hey, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? That reel you back in. So there's also going to be times when you say, all right, I'm going to miss out on my Valentine's Day campaign because it is far more important to me to go to the daddy-daughter dance. So there's that balance. And it depends on where you are in your adventure, not just your venture, but your adventure. With that as well, where you'll have the freedom to make decisions as to how that balance plays out. In the beginning, you're going to be kind of weighted towards, I got to get it done because I jumped off the cliff and I'm building the parachute on the way down. Later on, I could say, all right, I see this opportunity. Is it time dependent? Is it dependent on some market shift? Do I need to be ahead of it? Or is this just a little thing that I want to add on? So having that long-term vision also helps, because now I can see like what's out there and what's going to be more important in the moment. And I think the more you mature as both a person and a business person, it will balance more towards that family, to the point where it's not just how can I make people's lives better, it's how can I make my life better and my family's life better by making other people's lives better. And that kind of shifts your perspective a little bit to the point where now you can say, all right, I need more time at home so that I can make my family better. Maybe I put on a team member, you start delegating. And you get it out like that.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I love that seesaw sort of visual. I think that really, really helps. And another thing is I think communication, because you might have this great understanding and approach, but unless the family understands that as well, there's going to be a breakdown, right? So I think that communication element is so important. But you're right. I mean, one thing that I've learned, and I've done a lot. Like I've got, like you, I got my hands dabble, in a lot of different things. And there are times where I'm gone before the family's up. And I'm back at home and when they're already sleeping, and I don't see them for a couple days. And I realize, as much as like I would love to delegate everything, there are moments in new projects and new ventures it needed my time though. And what's great is communication, is the family understanding that dad's doing something that's important. He's trying to create something great, solve problems, or even create a better lifestyle for my family, and they understand that. I think that communication is important.
Sure. And you have kids, so you know the importance of getting them to understand it, because they're our next generation. Just real quick on that, this is another opportunity for a positive failure. If I go home and I tell my partner, hey, this is this idea I have, and it's going to require a lot of time and attention, or maybe money or whatever, and she says no, that's important to me, because that means I don't yet have it fleshed out. I haven't defined it well enough to explain it to her. She's not necessarily entrepreneur minded. So if she doesn't understand it, it's not ready yet. It doesn't mean no. It just means, all right, let me go back to the drawing board, like Wile E. Coyote in my little cave. Let me go back to the drawing board until I can come back and say, okay, now here's the idea. And when she says yes, well, now I've got something. It's a sounding board, market research at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, it's a great filter, being sensitive to that stuff and understanding that. I love what you just said. Even if, let's say, our partner, our wives, whatever, are not maybe sort of, experts in our fields, they do represent someone though, and that when we do run it by from that perspective of this is what I'm going to be doing, and it's a no, and they don't understand it, we should be paying attention to that. That's really interesting. I'm going to pursue that a little bit more. I love that.
Your wife will thank me.
You're going to be getting a little message, by the way.
Yeah.
It's Valentine's Day. You just saved my day. Thank you. All right. So last question for you here. In just like a one sentence thing, like all of a sudden you got this genie, he sends you back to your life 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and you got 30 seconds with your prior self. So you got this limited window here. What's one piece of advice that you're giving to your younger self before you had this incredible journey?
I think about this a lot. And man, I think that just the thing I would say is like, it's going to be okay. It's not even an idea or a mindset. I'm a pretty emotional guy. I get it from my dad. We're not afraid to show our emotions. And I'm sorry, but you know me, I can't do just one sentence. It's the fact that I've had so many failures, big ones, even recently, that were life-altering, heart-shattering, debilitating at times. But I've always gotten through it. And I think the challenge as a younger man was that I didn't have the experience of knowing that I could get through it. So if I could go back in time at 49 years old and talk to my 15-year-old self and just say, look, man, it's going to suck, but it's going to be okay. To have that trusted word from hopefully somebody that I can rely on, I think that would mean a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. That's the first time that I have gotten that as an answer. Because normally, and I think it's fine, people try to find what is that one defining advice that'll help me make more money, right? Like, can I tell myself this? But I think that's a much healthier sort of piece of advice, especially given that you have this short window, like you've got just a small amount of time with your younger self. What's that one thing that's going to help them? And I think you're right. I think confidence. I'll admit it to you with you here. Everyone has various insecurities at various moments in life. No one is confident 100% of the time in everything that they're doing. We all have those moments of self-doubt, and sometimes those moments of self-doubt, we give in to those moments because of fear.
Yeah.
So if we can give ourselves that advice when you're younger, you're probably right. It makes a world of a difference.
Yeah. No matter what's going on, like no matter how bad your life has been,
yeah,
here you are.
Right.
You survived every challenge. Maybe not the way that you would have wished or hoped.
Yeah.
But you've survived every single challenge thus far. Like one of the things I mentor my students with is, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
You get punched in the face, you get a free nose job out of it. Like, come on, right? It's you're still here.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
Right.
And you still have that thing that nobody could take away from you. You're who you are on the inside, that mindset, the mentality.
Yeah.
And if you've done it once, you could do it again.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Mike, I can't thank you enough for being here. Honestly, you are and have an enormous amount of wisdom. You're like the modern day encyclopedia of wisdom for everyone, really.
Oh, walking mansplainer, basically.
And honestly, I can't endorse you enough. Anyone who's out there, my recommendation is to seek you out. And because, just having a brief conversation with you, I know helps a lot of people because you do have a really profound understanding of things. And those that have an understanding have the ability to help people through stuff. And I think that's why you've had great success and you're able to do a lot of things and people trust you, in various elements, whether trusting you in the survival, trusting you, at your martial arts school, and that's because they trust your level of expertise. So I want to definitely encourage everyone to seek you out. Do me a favor, if you can let everyone know, how can they find you, whether it be a website, phone number, it doesn't matter. How can they find you?
Sure. The easiest way is our school's website is notkarate.com because it's not karate, it's kung fu. Something my dad built for us way back in the day after I told him 20 years later, like, it's not karate, it's kung fu. He built us notkarate.com. Yeah, so you could find a school phone number, email addresses, all that good stuff.
All that good stuff. And you operate out of Patchogue, but if people don't live in Patchogue, I'm sure they can still seek you out, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, we do projects all over Long Island, and it's a digital world.
Yeah.
You know, so hit me up.
Yeah, very good. Well, there you guys have it. I'm sure a lot of you guys were inspired by Mike here. You learned something brand new, and you're definitely walking away like jazz right now. Because I am. I'm like,
Yeah, I got work to do now.
So definitely seek him out because he's got so much more to offer than even the conversations that we've had here today. We could probably talk for hours and hours and hours, and we'll definitely have you back again. You know, just real quick, I first met you in this studio
Yes.
by someone else who was recording their podcast, and I remember I sort of like earmarked you. I'm like, this is a guy I want to talk to again. This guy is smart. He genuinely cares about people, and he understands that, you know what, I need to be a good steward of my information here, and I'm like, we need to talk. So I'm glad I was able to have you on my show here, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I love all the stuff you put out. I follow it. It is very impactful for me. So to have this opportunity today was wonderful, and it's definitely got my own gears thinking, not
Awesome.
just self-inspired.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, guys. Thanks again for joining us, and until next time, guys, remember, don't fear the process and don't fear grit.